Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Before we get into our recap, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who've listened to the podcast so far and sent us so many kind comments and messages on our social media. We've been going for just under 2 years now, and a couple of weeks ago we hit the milestone number of 5,000 downloads, which is just huge for us. So over and over again, thank you so much for listening. We don't advertise anywhere or anything like that, so we're pretty much just reliant on word of mouth and social media and whatnot for getting the word out there about the show to new listeners and people, and that's all down to you folks, and we truly appreciate it, so thank you once again. Alright then, let's quickly recap what happened in our last episode and we'll get to the show. With tickets to see a performance of Shakespeare's The Tempest on the evening of their third day in Twynham-on-Sea, our investigators Alistair, Madame Sway and Barnard were keen to try and get their minds off of the strange and disturbing events which seemed afoot in the town. Prior to the performance, Barnard made his way to the town's grocer's, where he procured himself a bottle of gin with the intent to steady his nerves somewhat. While in the grocer's, he encountered the aloof butler of local landowner Lady Druitt. The butler was not willing to entertain Barnard's casual attempts at engaging him in conversation, however, so gin in hand, Barnard returned to the lodgings. Conversing over dinner before leaving, the trio shared some of their findings so far, agreed that something definitely seemed off about the town, and expressed their surprise at the lack of outcry or indeed any reaction from the people of the town about the previous day's brutal murder of the church verger. Finally making their way to the theatre, they took their seats to watch the performance of The Tempest. Throughout the opening acts, all three noticed a growing sense of unease among themselves related to the character of Caliban, which they couldn't quite put their finger on. As the play was set to resume following an interval, the entire audience, however, watched in horror as the body of a young man fell from above the stage, apparently snagged on the opening curtains. The play's director was the first to reach the body, distraughtly proclaiming the young man, a stagehand that had been missing for a couple of days, dead. That's pretty much where we left off, so without any further ado, let's begin today's episode. Enjoy. People are running from the stage, and some people are running towards the stage. People are running in all states of shock at the appearance of this sudden appearance of this body falling from the ceiling. Certain members of the cast and crew are sort of making their way very quickly onto the stage to join the director, who was the first to get to the body, and is sort of looking around wildly for any kind of explanation. What would you all like to do?
Barnard, having shouted what the hell is happening, is kind of staring around. This body fell from the ceiling, yes?
Yeah, kind of from like above the stage, if that makes sense. Like,
okay, so that's where Barnard's eyes have been placed, and if he needs to, then he's moving forward towards the stage to get a better look up into the gantry up there.
You can definitely move forward, yeah. So, coming out of the row, I mean, I think we'd sort of established you were all kind of sort of fairly central in the theatre, I think was said. Mm-hmm. So, you climbing over chairs awkwardly? You leaving the row? What are you doing?
I'm going to try and push past people. In fact, I'm turning to the others around me. I'm going to kind of like gesture towards the stage and say, we should get a look at where that body came from quickly before anybody can get away from this place.
I'm with you.
Yes, Alistair. You're following as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Alistair's up and follows Barnard.
Mm-hmm.
I do look back to see if Madame Sway is joining us.
I am going to stay within the theatre and look around, directing people to the exits and reassuring people while looking around to make sure that, and if anyone looks suspicious that's leaving, trying to blend in with the crowd.
Okay, let's start early with these dice checks then. If yeah, because that's a specific you're looking for something thing. So
well, I think given her experience with the theatre, it's very easy for someone to like cause a distraction in her mind. That'd be kind of a, especially if it's like because it was so dramatic and there were a lot of people around. You'd be like, oh,
yeah, okay. So you're kind of sort of almost like trying to sense if anyone's got like a hidden motive while they're running away, sort of thing.
But trying to look reassuring and be like, I'm sure it's just some tragic accident. I'm sure it's just tragic. I'm sure we'll get the doctor straight away. If we'll all just by just moving out of the way.
They're immediately taking on the role of like unofficial usher.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, can you make a psychology check for me then? If this is what you're kind of trying to gauge if people's reactions are genuine, would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
42.
42. Okay. Now you're not trained in this, so to get a full success, you needed less than a 10. I'm afraid. But it's not like a kind of catastrophic fail. You just kind of can't really. You can't really make out anybody that sort of seems to be kind of.
I'm still recovering from the shock. Of
yeah. To the point where like nobody's behaviour is really sort of nothing really jumps out at you as like, oh, that's weird. Like for how weird the situation is, nobody is like calmly strolling to the exit with a smug grin on their face, adjusting their tie or anything like that. You know, nothing jumps out as out of place to you in the reactions of people. As I said, so some people sort of seem to be kind of. The braver people are kind of heading to the stage to sort of, with a look on their faces of like, oh, I need to help. I would say the vast majority of people are very quickly, not in like a full panic, but
quite agitated.
Very close to, and some people are very close to a full panic, sort of running, basically. But everybody's kind of heading sort of to the back of the theatre the way you came in. Let's say this is going to be, this isn't going to be an instant thing then, so you're kind of directing people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the two guys then. So you're sort of pushing away the opposite direction, sort of towards the stage, looking up as you go, or you tell me exactly what each of you is sort of thinking, doing.
Barnard is most definitely looking up towards if there's gantry up there, wherever that body came from is where his focus is.
Okay. Well, I can tell you without a roll that as you get a little bit closer, you kind of get a bit of a different angle. You can see there was a gantry up there. You can only see the underside of it, though. It's unlit above the gantry, is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. But you can definitely see there is a gantry.
As Alistair is following Barnard down to the stage, are there any steps that lead up to the stage from the floor here, or is it?
There's a small set on each side, sort of quite subtle, but you can get up onto the stage.
Right. So Bernard's looking up at the gantry. Mm-hmm. Alistair, I'm going to go up the steps. Have we gone down the right side of the aisles or the left?
Oh, I'll leave that up to you.
I'll say we've gone down the right.
Okay.
Okay, so I go up the right-hand side steps leading onto the stage, and I look back to Barnard, and then I look up to kind of follow his gaze, but looking almost sort of...
To getting at it from a different angle, sort of thing?
Yeah, different angle, directly, almost not quite directly underneath it, but if I'm here and the gantry's behind where the curtain is, it's kind of looking for anything weird.
Okay, make an intelligence check for me. As you're a bit closer and you can kind of make a bit of a closer inspection of it, without, obviously you haven't gone up there or anything, but from where you're at, you can sort of... Yeah, so D100, just a straight intelligence check.
35?
35? I think your intelligence is about 50, isn't it?
45.
45, okay, so yeah. You can't see anyone up there, at least from the angle you're at, but it does appear to be sort of... The gantry is sort of swaying slightly, sort of left and right. But you can't really tell whether this is just sort of leftover motion from the fall, or whether it's due to movement from anything up there. You can't tell that from where you're at.
Right, okay.
Well, having approached the stage then and having seen Alistair get up on it, Barnard's going to kind of look over towards where the body's fallen and what's going on directly around the body right now.
Okay. So there's now, by now, a kind of fairly, a growing gathering, let's say, of concerned people. The director was sort of right over the body as he was the first to get to it, and other members of the cast and crew are sort of making their way, have made their way onto the stage, along with a couple of sort of practical-minded individuals from the crowd. I mean, what are you looking for specifically?
I just wanted to catch the scene to see what was happening around the body, if people were crowding around that, and that's where all attention had fallen right now, or if anybody was close by doing anything dodgy.
It does appear that that's mostly where the attention is. You know what, actually, can I get an intelligence roll from you?
Uh-huh.
Just as a sort of general kind of like, see if you notice anything. 63. That's rather high.
And my intelligence is 50. So
yeah, no. I mean, you're as soon as your gaze falls on the scene, it's sort of you're finding it a little hard to kind of focus on anything differently. I mean, you're not sort of tunnel visioning it, but yeah, it's sort of it's very much the center of attention for everybody involved, and you found yourself drawn into it.
Okay, then. Kind of in a half panic, then I suppose Barnard's going to shout at that group, "How do we get up to that gantry?"
Okay. The one of the stagehands who's sort of on the side, he looks pretty panicked himself. He kind of stares at you blankly for a second and goes, "All right, follow me, mister," and sort of beckons you, and you kind of run to the side of the. He takes you sort of off the side of the stage, towards the back of the stage, sort of round behind a curtain. There is a wooden ladder which seems to be leading up into the darkness above.
Is there anything immediate around that ladder? Is there any indication of somebody having recently passed by? Any stains, marks, scuffs? Anything obvious going on there?
Yeah. Okay, make a tracking check for me. Just made it harder for yourself, but
20. Well, with the tracking of 10%, I got 26.
26.
So that ain't happening.
That's a fail, but again, let's say it's not a critical fail. Just in general in this area, you're kind of mid-production on a play. There's signs that people have been moving around here just generally, you know. What with the crew and the cast and everything, it's not out of place that, you know, somebody might have been in this area, but you can't see anything incriminating, really.
Okay. Turning back to the stagehand, then I'm going to ask him, where could somebody have gained egress from this building?
Well, it's the stage doors over this side, over the other side of the stage, mister. Follow me. He's very helpful, this guy. And he leads you, sort of, again, still staying behind the kind of back, sort of, the background curtain, to the other side, and the other side kind of the theatre building itself, sort of off to the one side of the stage and near to the dressing rooms. There's a door to, you would assume, the outside, and it appears to be sort of slightly ajar.
Okay, spotting that, Barnard's going to immediately barrel through the door as fast as possible to try and get a glimpse outside and see if there's anybody rushing off into the night, or if there's somebody right there, potentially.
Okay, yeah, so you find yourself in a rather dark alleyway. Madam Sway and Alistair had previously been in this alleyway, going into the building, but you haven't.
Not at the same time.
No, we've been there at daytime.
Separately.
Prior to.
Yeah.
Prior to.
Yes, of course, quite. That's going to come across really badly on the podcast.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's a little odd.
When this episode goes out.
Protesting too much.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So Barnard, you find yourself in a very dark alleyway. Looking to your left, you can just about see at the other end of the alleyway the sort of street lighting from the main high street. About, I want to say, 50, 60 sort of meters away. So, you know, it's a fair distance. To the right, the alleyway sort of disappears into darkness, and you can sort of make out through sort of some diffuse kind of moonlight that it seems to be sort of just leading to kind of like a field.
Okay, taking a second. What's the what's the sort of ambience outside? Is there any obvious noise? Is it quiet enough that I can kind of strain to try and hear in either direction? Is there any movement in either direction?
Make a listen check for me.
27.
27, and you needed 20.
I just have no luck with the rolls with Barnard, that's all.
You can hear sounds of agitated kind of general kind of crowd noise from the front of the theatre as people are kind of, and the slamming of doors, people leaving still in their kind of panic. Other than that, to the right, towards like the kind of the darkened end of the alleyway, it just sounds like a sort of eerily sort of silent kind of. You don't hear anything coming from your right from the darkness, really. Let's leave it at that.
Okay. Turning back to the stagehand, I'm going to ask him, was there any other means of getting out of this building? Anything at all?
Oh, only through the front, sir.
And with that, I'm going to return back into the building with this guy and try and regroup around the stage, see what's happening there.
Okay. So while Barnard's been doing his rushing around investigating, what's Alistair been doing?
Alistair's been looking, just trying to get a glimpse at what's going on with the body. Mm-hmm. But the one other thought comes into his head is Abraham on the stage while this is all going on?
He is now on the stage. He's sort of pulling off a large fake beard that he had in his role as Prospero. He's looking very concerned. He sort of catches your eye as a sort of unspoken sort of like acknowledgement that you'd brought up in conversation the day before that there was problems and people going missing, and almost as if he wasn't expecting it to be brought to his doorstep. No, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not annoyed at you kind of thing, but like a kind of like, oh, this is what you're talking about sort of look.
Okay. I try to get over to Abraham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's simple enough.
Yep. And
he's not like over the body or anything. He's just kind of in the.
He's in the area
in the group and sort of. They're not like people aren't kind of bustling pushing each other aside or anything. There's a sort of a group of people that just sort of stood loosely around the body. Or there's a lot of rushing to get to it, and most of the people who got there realise that they don't have no clue what to do once they got there. So there's a lot of concerned-looking people who stood over this corpse.
Right. Okay. So I'm over to Abraham. And I say, Abraham, do you know this man?
Yes, this is James. He's I mentioned a stagehand going missing yesterday. But
and that's him?
Yes, I'll never forget a face.
Oh, indeed. Am I at a point where I can actually see the body?
Yeah.
In any clarity, right. I'm still stood near Abraham. Can I examine visually what the body
from where you're at,
like?
just sort of get a general look at sort of like what's the deal. Make a medicine check, although that's 1% if you're not trained in it. So
I am not.
Okay, well,
36.
That's a fail.
That's a fail. Yes, 36 is a fail. Yes,
it's almost 35 more than you needed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I probably should have sort of specified what I was looking for.
Yeah, okay, well...
yeah.
I mean, it's the same check, but...
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm just looking to see if there's any similarity to the body of the verger from the church.
Okay.
Back.
Yeah, I'll give you... Well, with that number, I'll still give you that. Yeah, it's quite clear there is a sort of... It's not as bad as the verger, where he'd been completely sort of midsection missing, but there is a large sort of open wound on his sort of right-hand side of his abdomen.
Right.
Kind of thing. And again, it looks like it looks emptier than it should, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Without being trained in it, you can't really figure much more out than that, other than the obvious. Like, it's obviously a similar thing, but you can't do much more than that.
Okay, so I lean towards Abraham and say, his wound, Abraham, It's not too dissimilar from what I saw on the Verger a few days ago.
You sure?
Positive. There's bits missing that really shouldn't be. Although the Verger was missing a lot more than just a chunk of his abdomen, but it's strikingly similar.
Abraham kind of looks around at this. He looks to the director and says, Edward, what do you see anything? What do you see? The director turns to him and says, it's James. He's, what was he doing up on the gantry? I just don't understand. And they're not really learning anything from each other. It's just a bit of
a bit of discourse.
Yeah, they're in a little bit in shock, which is, understandable sort of thing.
Yeah, just sort of looking for answers, reassurance, and
yeah,
between them, yeah.
Yeah. Madam Sway, what would you like to have been doing while all of this...
I'm assuming there's no more people?
It's pretty much emptied out.
I'm assuming the audience... Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much emptied out by now.
She's going to walk near the stage, but not towards the body.
Not getting too close, sort of thing.
No.
Okay.
She's like, I don't really want to see the body.
All right.
But she's going to, peek her eye around, the side curtains of the stage.
Okay.
And, the different... Because I imagine there would be different, there'd be a number of the curtains, as there would be.
Side curtains,
so she might have a look through them to see if there's anything amiss with the rigging and stuff.
Okay.
She's an actress. She's worked in theatres before.
Makes sense. Again, it's not really spot hidden, so I guess just make an intelligence check for me on this one.
17.
17, that's pretty good. The curtains and things don't really seem to be out of place so much. By the time you get there, you get there about the time that Barnard sort of gets to the side door. You too notice that it is slightly ajar. The one thing that does sort of strike you, though, sort of a weird kind of sort of odd brainwave, is that there's not really a lot of blood. I know you're not looking directly at the body, but for somebody who, it's unavoidable to kind of look at it as you're, just as you sort of falling and everything.
Avoiding it in her gaze.
For such a large wound, it's not like spurting blood or anything. It doesn't look too fresh. It's not immediate. It's not like he's been stabbed and fell.
Yeah, so it looks like he's been killed elsewhere.
He may have been up there for a little bit.
Yeah, he may have been hidden up there he'd been killed, but maybe hidden up there.
Yeah.
To for later when the performance was over and they could maybe move him out.
Possibly, yeah. That, speculation at this point, but yeah, it kind of strikes you that it doesn't. Something about it sort of strikes you that this isn't. You're not in the midst of the situation. This is very much a past crime scene or something, if that makes sense.
Isn't Bernard literally nearby me?
Yeah, he's kind of close to you. You just sort of you clock that side door that you remember from when you came in before to drop off your letter. You clock that it's ajar, and just as you do, it's sort of you see Barnard coming to it and then sort of bursting out into the alleyway briefly.
I'm gonna gesture to him to come towards me. So I'm gonna relay this information because it's a bit. There's something just doesn't sit right.
Okay, so seeing that I'm being sort of waved over, but I was going to kind of come over and relay the fact that I've looked out into the alleyway. There's nobody out there. There's no sign of anybody coming or going. Do you know what the hell's happening?
No, but most of the punters have left. Thankfully, they don't want to see this side. But Bernard, does it strike you odd that there's not more blood? I know it's not very. I'm trying to avoid it. I'm trying to avoid looking at it, but I can't. It's something about it. There's not enough blood for that kind of injury.
I can't say I'd given the blood any thought, but And can I kind of like, is there a view of the stage from here? Can I kind of glance over her shoulder, so to speak, and kind of get a quick look and be like, yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of look sort of up a sort of short sort of set of 3 or 4 stairs up onto the stage itself. I mean, I want to be clear, there's not no blood, it's just, you get the feeling if it was fresh, it would still be... It'd be, it'd be all over the place, That's what I want to make clear. It's not like...
I'll rephrase that then.
Yeah.
If it was fresh, do you not think there would be more blood? But there doesn't seem to be enough.
Now that you mention it...
fresh.
Yes, I agree, in fact. A man is filled with this stuff, and that body seems quite drained.
I mean, I don't presume to be an expert in these things. It's a terrible idea, but if you were to... I don't want to stab someone. The immediate effect, in my mind, would be that there would be a lot of blood. And it would continue to accumulate as the poor person bled out.
As he considers this, Barnard kind of tenses up and becomes visibly kind of stressed at the thought of stabbing a person, and turns to say, like, yes, stabbing a man does create quite the mess in my experience.
Would you say that you're very focused on that memory?
Yes.
Can you make a sanity check for me?
I can indeed.
I'm so sorry.
I'm making you roll for flashbacks.
I'm not saying I'm gearing towards this, but I kind of am.
Yeah.
99.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
insane.
All right, so I'm gonna...
Oh dear.
It's not gonna be a big thing here. So yeah, you lose 2 sanity points thinking about the horrors of war.
Down to 43 sanity.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Getting there.
He's losing it.
Yeah, you're sort of, the situation itself is very stressful itself, and having these extra sort of thoughts puts your mind back to, back to the trenches.
Okay, so there maybe 2 or 3 seconds passes. Barnard's very clearly caught up in that thought before he kind of, well, there's matters at hand, and we should probably rejoin Alistair to find out what he's discerned from the others on the stage over there.
At which point, I would like to descend from the stage.
Okay, so coming to them,
and I'll come to them.
Okay, sure.
So Alistair walks down the steps, overhearing Barnard, and says, "No need, I'll join you."
Oh, well, what have you seen on the stage?
Well, I had a look up at the gantry at a different angle. I couldn't see anything specifically out of place, but I did manage to get a look at the body. And his wound, it's not a simple stab wound at all.
Oh heavens.
Or gunshot or anything like that. It's not dissimilar to the state that I saw the verger in at the church.
Oh good lord, there's a murderer.
Well, there's something on the loose, but he's missing quite the chunk out of his abdomen. Not as visceral as what happened to the verger, and certainly not as much blood around, but...
Yes, isn't it odd, though?
Which makes me think one of 2 things. Either poor James was killed somewhere else and moved here out of convenience, or he was working in the gantry and was attacked but wasn't able to put up any kind of struggle. That's the only 2 reasons I can think of that there's a lack of blood. I think maybe he was left there deliberately as snack food, I suppose. Not very nice.
Snack food? As in someone was going to eat him?
It's a thought. It's a weird one, I know, but it's all I can say is it's very similar to what we've previously seen.
Out comes the bottle of whiskey.
And with that, Alistair has successfully driven Madame Sway to drink. Again. And again. And yes, again as well.
We just introduced her to cannibals, to the idea that there could be a cannibalistic murderer out there who's eating his victims.
It's a theory.
Yeah, no, I'm all for you guys floating theories. It's good. Yeah.
Either way, it is very similar to the Verger.
I think Barnard's going to follow suit with a quick swig of gin.
You're missing out here. You didn't bring a hip flask with you, unless you got one. I don't think you've got one.
I don't think it's in my effects. Hang on.
In fact, on that basis, and seeing that there's one person in the threesome that has not got a bottle in their hand right now, Barnard kind of tips the bottle towards Alistair to offer. Would you like something to steady you down, old boy?
Sway would do the same. Whiskey?
I do have a revolver, so I could shoot myself.
That would simplify things.
Yeah. Let's take it to the extreme.
I'm not going to wait around for something to get me. I'm going to get myself.
No, I have no alcoholic paraphernalia upon me, so I should just stand there and sort of wait for you to finish gulping.
Well, you can have a sip of the gin if you like. I'm making an offer.
Well, what the hell? Thank you, old bean. I take a tiny swig, do the lemon face, and then hand it back.
Noting the lemon face and kind of pulling himself out of the moment for just the briefest moment, Barnard kind of glowers a moment, just like looking at this, I don't know, soft man wincing at gin.
Soft man?
How? He didn't say it out loud, he just winced.
That's fair enough. Very smooth, thank you.
Wouldn't have lasted a moment in the trenches.
Well, as we know, I wasn't in them. Right. So that's my explanation done.
Okay.
And my report in.
So yes, the three of you, the stagehand is kind of stood sort of awkwardly near the three of you, but he sort of edges back away to sort of rejoin the group on the stage.
Turning to the rest of the group then, Barnard's going to ask, perhaps one of us should grab a member of the local constabulary. There's clearly a crime scene at hand here. Has anybody seen anybody run out to get an officer or anything like that?
I'm sure the director has probably called them by now.
I should hope so.
The director is actually, as you look over, still on the stage, kind of not like dramatically posing, holding up the body, like he's going no or anything, but he's very much still kind of with the body, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
But there were enough people going out that you would... It could be guessed that maybe one of them would...
You'd expect the alarm to be raised.
Yes,
there's that many people panicking.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way, yeah.
I suggest we return to the theatre itself and await the arrival of the local constabulary. Perhaps they've managed to shine a little light on events of the other day and could perhaps give a little more context to what's happening here.
Alternatively, they might not shine any light on it at all.
Well, there'll be many people missing already, and what have they done about it? What do you expect them to do about this one? It just doesn't... It seems that we might have to take these things into our own hands. What is this?
A mystery that needs solving.
This poor boy. I had a whole career ahead of him in this theatre, and it's been taken away from him.
And the Verger as well? Man of God going about his business to be torn apart like that?
Yes, something sinister is going on. Gets to me, I'm very nervous right now. I'm just going to take another sip of whiskey.
I
can't find our words.
Yeah, I sensed it was going that way.
I look to Barnard and say, Barnard, I know you're quite visibly shaken by what's happening, but this is going to sound very strange, but I have to ask, could your friend at the sanitarium potentially shed light on what's been happening? I mean, he has been in Twine-on-Sea longer than any of us have. Is it possible he might know something?
I'm not even sure he could communicate with us right now, even if he knew anything. He underwent some sort of major procedure today. I'll be honest with you, as far as I'm aware, Jenkins has spent all of his time convalescing since arriving in Twine-on-Sea. He's really just spent his time laid up in the sanitarium. So, short of local gossip, I'm not sure what else he might know.
should we maybe talk to some of the actors or some of the staff here, see if they've seen anything unusual?
My first thought, given events, is that perhaps one of us should go up to the gantry and have a little look around. I can't say I'm overly familiar with the normal layout of a theatre. I've rushed through and had a look myself already, but I can't see anything that stands out too much.
I'll go. I know the theatre from when I was a boy. It doesn't seem to have changed that much. I should be able to navigate the gantry quite easily. Perhaps one of you should talk to some of the actors, and another one keep an eye out for the arrival of the police. And then, once we're all done, we'll meet out the back of the theatre, perhaps, and discuss what we found.
Yes, I agree. I think if Bernard, you take the police constable, you've dealt with him before, probably likely will be the same one, and I will take the actors.
Yes, these theatrical times are a little much for me, to be honest.
Yes, and they've had their nerves shaken, as we all have, but they sometimes need a delicate hand.
It's settled
or a
then.
slap. Or a slap.
Good slap. It's
Exactly.
settled. It's settled then. Let's go about our business. We'll meet in 20 minutes.
All right.
Let's stick with Alistair then, if you're sort of going to be making your way up onto the gantry.
Yes. I'll go the same way that Barnard was ushered to by the stagehand.
Yeah, you find it easily enough. It's a ladder going up into the darkness. Seems fairly sturdy, you don't have any trouble getting up there, but it is dark up there. You find yourself looking down onto the stage. The far kind of edge of the gantry, you can see is close to the curtain. You can see it's very close, it comes within a foot of the curtain, so you can see where maybe the body snagged on the curtain as it was opening.
Right.
Which, it's not too big of a stretch to put two and two together from seeing it happen from there. That's but it's a little dark, so you know.
Okay.
Sort of eyes take a second to adjust to the darkness.
I do have in my inventory, although coming to a theatre, I don't think I'd have brought it with me. Probably not. I do have a lantern in my gear. You're probably right. You probably didn't bring it to the theatre with you, but No. Can I look and see if there are any lanterns hanging that can be lit?
There's none up here, but you do remember spotting a couple sort of near to the ladder up to the gantry, which, like I say, it's kind of near to the dressing rooms sort of thing. There's a couple of...
Okay, in that case, before I advance any further, I call down to the stagehand.
Yeah, he's kind of middling around.
Yeah. Young chap?
Yeah.
You there! Can you fetch me a lantern? Lit, on the double, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Wait.
I'll wait for the...
20-30 seconds, and
he brings
you can see me sort of awkwardly lifting it up to you up on the gantry.
Okay, I take the
He
lantern.
seems a little hesitant to actually climb up on there himself, but he hands it to you and goes back down the ladder.
Yeah, I say, thank you. Now get back down there. Alistair has the lantern, and he turns back to shine a light on the rest of the upper gantry.
Yeah. Okay, so now you can actually see up here. It's quite obvious that you are alone up here straight away. There's not really anywhere to hide. But looking around, the gantry itself is kind of... It's basically a series of wooden boards on a frame. Now that you can shine a light, you can see near to where you would guess the body was before it fell. There is some dried blood, fair amount of it. Kind of a miracle it didn't drip down onto the stage. But yeah, I mean, you can very easily sort of see where the body was, and but yeah, the blood is dried onto the boards. There's not like a puddle or anything.
Right. Dried blood. Perhaps he was killed up here. Can I advance any further along the gantry?
Yeah. I mean, what are you looking for? Are you just sort of
I'm looking for kind of signs of a struggle, perhaps markings to indicate what or who might have been up there, footprints in dust or something like that.
Okay, now we know it's a skill. Make a tracking check for me.
Tracking. 29.
And what's your skill number on that?
10%.
10%. So, no, I mean, it's dusty up here. Okay, I mean, you got fairly close to... I realise that the hard and fast rule should be if you don't hit the number, then no. But if we're out of 100 and you got 29 while aiming for 10, I'll give you some detail.
Okay.
It's quite dusty up here, and there's obviously the previously mentioned dried blood. There aren't any... There's signs that some of the dust was disturbed up here, but you can't really make out... There's not like tracks leading off into the darkness or anything. And you would think maybe if there were any, the most convenient route would be the one that you've just taken, in which case you've just trodden into any tracks that there might have been.
Right.
So you can't really make anything out.
Okay. So no markings of any kind?
No real scratches or anything like that, no. Much like the verges, that you remember that you were kind of looking around for any signs of anything.
I think it looked like an animal attack at first.
Sort of, yeah, but there weren't any, like... I don't think I said there were any, like, claw scrapes on the wall or anything. No. And it's much like that here. There's sort of...
I think you said there were, like... You could see bits of things...
Like where the carpet had been bumped into. Yeah, carpet had been kicked up and stuff, yeah, but there was no... It's a similar situation here, except there's not really anything to knock over up here. So, like, you can... Where the dust is disturbed a bit, you can tell that there was movement up here. Somebody's been up here, and obviously there's a body up here. But... There's no like big claw marks or anything, you know.
Right, okay.
It doesn't scream animal attack to you.
Okay. As one final thing, as I'm looking around, is there any kind of like loft hatch or anything else up here that could be a potential in and out route, or is it literally just end-to-end gantry with ladder going?
It's just kind of over the stage. It's not really sort of going up into the rafters much more, because there is still, I will say, there's probably another 10 meters above you before you hit the ceiling.
Right, okay.
You're just sort of above the stage, if that makes sense. You know, you're not right up against the roof.
Okay, so Alistair sort of goes, dead end. Quite literally.
It's pretty poor taste.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck it.
There's nobody around. Alistair gets a little bit like, you know. Yeah.
CSI.
Yeah. If this was the modern...
He puts on his sunglasses.
If this was the modern Call of Cthulhu setting... If this was the modern setting for Call of Cthulhu... Yeah, he would just sort of do a little fist bump. Like, got a pun. Nobody heard it.
Nailed it.
Right, so yeah, Alistair sort of just mumbles to himself that he's not found anything, and turns to head back towards the ladder.
Okay. Barnard, are you waiting sort of where you were, or are you heading out into the lobby? What are you doing?
Yeah, head out into the lobby, kind of wait by the front door, assuming that that's where the police are going to kind of enter the building.
Yeah, the lobby is pretty much deserted, except for the guy who was selling tickets on your previous visit. Who he's just coming out of his booth now. It you know, not a lot of time has passed really since the. I know we're at the moment quite a way into this episode, but in real terms, quite a lot has happened in a short space of time. He's just coming out of his booth. As he sees you coming out, looking... I mean, I'm guessing you wouldn't describe Barnard as calm?
He's got an intensity in his eyes right now. He's got that kind of sharp focus thing going where he's very clearly a man on a mission, but there's an edge to that where you probably don't want to get in his way either.
So he spots you coming out, but you very much, with that demeanour, you're not... You don't look like the people who were just running out past him. Basically, and he kind of looks and goes, "What's going on? What's going on there, mister?"
A body has fallen from the gantry in the theatre itself. Obviously, there's a panic afoot. Have you seen anybody suspicious coming or going this evening? Anybody out of the ordinary that you don't recognise?
Well, no. I mean, I sell the tickets. Everybody who's come through bought a ticket. I've seen them all before. I mean, no, can't say as I have.
Well, I need to await the local constabulary's arrival as witness to this, and my compatriots and I seem to have found ourselves in the middle of local events, and obviously we found ourselves kind of drawn towards figuring out what the hell is going on. There's quite gruesome events taking place. My friend Jenkins, he's in the local sanitarium, and as he's saying this, Barnard's becoming more and more wound up as he's kind of recounting events to himself and talking to this guy. Is there any reaction from the guy as I'm saying this to him?
He's kind of staring at you wide-eyed, and sort of as you start to sort of go a little bit off the deep end with sort of bringing up Jenkins and stuff, you get the feeling he's not quite following you. He's still kind of processing the fact that there was a body sort of fallen from the rafters, if that makes sense. You've kind of thrown, like, you saw a bunch of people running past, some of them screaming maybe, and then you came out a minute or so later looking fairly intense, and you've kind of dropped some knowledge on him.
So seeing the guy's expression slowly changing to this kind of perhaps a little bit shocked and awed.
I'd say that, yeah.
Barnard catches himself and slows down and says, I'm sorry. It's really kind of overtaking me a little bit right now. I need to catch a breath of air at the door. I suggest you go through into the theatre itself and get a look at what's going on. You need to know, you work here. Speak to your co-workers, and I'm going to catch my breath.
Do you want me to call the police?
You didn't already call the police?
Well, no, I didn't know what's going on.
Yes, call the police, man.
Okay.
I'll wait them at the door.
He goes back behind his desk, and I won't go through the whole rigmarole of him doing one side of a conversation.
An entire theatre empties with people screaming and shouting and crying, and he does nothing. He just thinks it's oh well, that's a bad performance.
I'm kind of
they're doing a crossword.
Yeah, I'm kind of imagining he was like, the performance is on. We just had an interval. He's settling back in with his paperback or something, and maybe the first few people were just hurrying out, didn't make a lot of noise, so he maybe didn't even look up from his book straight away. And before he knew it, there was a couple of screaming people, and he was just kind of looking, and really, you know, as I say, not a lot of time has passed, so he was just sort of like, he's frozen by indecision, let's put it that way, and then Barnard came storming through.
Reading a copy of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds or something.
Yeah, that's how I'm rationalising. Okay, so this guy makes a phone call, and Barnard you're sort of stood there, kind of, I would imagine, rather angrily now, standing in the doorway, at this guy's sort of lack of knowledge of what had gone on, really, but like, you were kind of going into the lobby expecting the police to be on the way. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, Barnard's going to stand at the front door and kind of like catch his breath, get a little bit of fresh air, and kind of glower into the night, keeping an eye out, awaiting the first person that's going to come up to this door, assuming that that's the police officer.
I've got a very strong mental image of you just standing there quietly seething.
Oh, yeah, with his arms crossed, just like staring, seething at like the approaching car.
Yeah.
So I can't quite believe that this guy didn't take it seriously. Like, how could he have sat there? Even if it was only about a minute's amount of like reaction time, he should have definitely done something by then. Everybody's incompetent in the mind of Barnard. Yeah.
Okay, so with this in mind, then you're standing with your back to the theatre, looking out of the front doors, glass-panelled entranceway, waiting for the arrival of the local police. Behind you in the theatre, Alistair is still up on the gantry, Madam Sway preparing to talk to the actors, and a young man's body still lying on the stage. The investigation continues. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. Our next story episode, episode 49, continuing where we left off today, will be available as usual in 2 weeks' time on Thursday the 25th of April. So we hope you'll all tune back in for that. We may be back with a bonus episode next week, Thursday the 18th, so keep an eye on our social media for news of whether that's happening or not. In the meantime, you can get in contact with us on Twitter and Facebook, both of which we are at Pretend With Dice. You can also email us at pretendingwithdice@outlook.com. If you're an iTunes user, it'd be really great if you could leave us a rating and review. It all helps us to find new listeners, and we'd love to hear what you all think of the podcast. So for now, that's our show. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.